Hello and welcome to GoodWe Quick Start Training. I'm Sandra Herrera, Technical Sales at GoodWe USA. This training was designed for installers only to get you through the installation, wiring, and commissioning best practices for the GoodWe MSUS residential string inverter. In today's agenda, we will cover all of the options for after-sales support. Quick overview of the GoodWe UL version products, and then we'll jump into the installation best practices, commissioning, and also covering the apps that you will need to do the commissioning. Let's start with how to contact GoodWe in case you have any technical questions during the installation or after. We have several options for the installer to contact our after-sales support. First, we have our L1 support line at 888-418-0775. You can also email us directly at service.us@goodwe.com or go to the US version of our website and click on support and complete the online form. This will automatically generate a ticket for our US-based team to respond. Our headquarters for GoodWe US is in Denver, Colorado. Here we have our technology center, which includes our product testing lab. We also house our L2 support and RMA center. In the unlikely event that you have a problem or an issue and we need to replace the product, we can handle it all directly from Denver. Additionally, this facility has our business team offices, product management, and training facility. Now I will go over our UL version products at a high level. If you are interested in learning more about these other products, please contact GoodWe Sales. This is our newest residential string inverter, the MSUS series. With sizing from 5K to 11.4 kW, the 5 and the 6 kW have only 2 MPPTs, and the larger versions have 3 MPPTs. You can only connect one string of modules per MPPT, which has a maximum input current of 16 amps, which is capable of handling some of the newer, larger modules that we're seeing entering the US market. This inverter has a wide voltage range with a starting at 80 volts and with an MPPT upper end of 500 volts DC. It has a built-in arc fault and it also has a built-in rapid shutdown transmitter. The next products are our battery or storage inverters, starting with our ESUS hybrid. This ESUS is one of our residential storage inverters. This is a DC couple. The smaller models have 2 MPPTs and the larger have 4 MPPTs. Each MPPT can handle up to 16 amps and can accommodate some of the larger modules. Oversizing is always allowed in these models. However, the primary principle in the string sizing is not to exceed the maximum voltage for the MPPT window and also not exceed the maximum current. In the storage family, we also have an AC couple version, which is our SBP-US. Both of these inverters are compatible with our GoodWe battery, which is Lynx. And we also are compatible with other battery manufacturers, which includes the LG Resu Prime. Another unique feature of all of these inverters is that the size doesn't change the capacity. The 5 kW inverter is the same dimensions as the 14.4 kW, which makes it easier for installers to determine best installation sites for all of these residential inverters. The ABD and the MPD are our microgrid interconnection devices. These are required for all of the storage inverters for backup functions. ABD and MPD come with revenue grid meters NCT included pre-installed from the factory. Lynx batteries are modular and expandable, starting from a 9.6 kWh all the way to a 19.2 kWh. This product ships in segments. Each module weighs about 86 pounds. This is done to facilitate the installation because each module is much easier to manage than the full pack put together, which nears 500 pounds. A 50 amp DC breaker is already included with the PCU or battery management system. The battery was designed for floor stand installation. It is outdoors rated. However, it doesn't have to be immediately under the inverter. Because of the battery serial connection interface design, it is not possible to cross the polarity of the modules. There are no wires in between each module for the installer. Once all the modules are in place, the last part is the PCU, which will automatically detect the capacity of the rack. For the MSUS, you have optional meters. These are not included, and they are intended for load monitoring, or if you're required to do zero export power limiting, you will need to have these meters. I will touch a little bit more in detail of how they get installed during the commissioning part of the training. Let's jump into the installation best practices for MSUS. Although string sizing isn't part of the installation and commissioning, I wanted to point out the different tools that we offer for the design. We recommend you always check maximum string sizing with our EZDesigner tool to ensure that the inverter will operate at peak efficiency during the range of temperatures of the site. Note that the MPPT voltage range of this model, you need to design the strings to ensure you are targeting the maximum voltage and minimum voltage within the range. Outside the MPPT voltage range, the inverter is not at the peak efficiency. In addition to our EZDesigner tool, which you can find on our website, and I'm also going to include a link on the description below to this video, we also partner with other modeling tools such as OpenSolar. As best practices, right when you open the box, we recommend that you take a picture of the label on the box as well as the label on the inverter. You will find the serial number on this label, and if you need any support or you have any questions about the product, all you need to look is at the label. It will give you the model number and the serial number of the inverter. Now let's take a look on what comes in the box with the inverter. You will find several pieces here that are very important. Let me highlight first the antenna. Don't forget to install the Wi-Fi antenna because you will need to connect to the router of the house. This antenna will extend the range of the Wi-Fi receiver. Additionally, I want to point out the small screwdriver that is included in the box, which will help you lift the spring when you need to install the PV wires and the AC wires. The next ones that I want to point out are these AC terminals and DC terminals. But let me switch to the next slide so I can explain about these terminals. One of the things that we have noticed in the industry, not specifically us at GoodWe, but as a known issue, is the number of false AFCI or arc fault. One of the things that we've done to prevent this is by including this AC and PV terminals. And what we're asking you is, please make sure you crimp this stranded copper wire. We find that if you try to install the stranded copper wire directly into the PV connection, we have more of a risk of creating false positives for arc fault. So don't forget to crimp the number 10 copper wire that will go into the PV strings. For the installations of the inverter, keep in mind that the MSUS is NEMA Type 4X or IP66 rated. So it can be installed outside. Most of our installations are on an external wall near the utility meter. First, evaluate the selected site. Although the inverter doesn't have any external fan for cooling, the back of the inverter has heat sinks, which should have natural air ventilation. So make sure you're not blocking the natural air circulation on the back of the inverter. Let me clarify about the fan. The inverter uses natural convection for cooling, but when you open the wiring compartment, you will notice that there is a small fan, and this fan is actually moving air from the wiring compartment into the electronics. It's not pulling air from the outside. Make sure that you use the enclosed cardboard template to mark the holes for the mounting of the inverter hanger plate. Also make sure to select the correct hardware for the type of wall and also the weight of the inverter. Remember, this inverter weighs about 55 pounds. Let's look at the array connection. Ensure the DC switch is in the off position. You are connecting each string directly to the inverter. There are no fuses. The two small versions, the 5K and the 6kW, only have 2 MPPTs, and then the larger has 3 MPPTs. We recommend that you use number 10 gauge wire, copper, for the positive and the negative conductor. Please ensure to validate that the string polarity is correct. Although the inverter has reverse polarity protection, it is always best practices to ensure before you make the connection. It isn't necessary and not recommended that you open the upper part of the inverter. The top has the power electronics, and you can break the weather seal. The only entry point is the lower parts of the wiring compartments. All of the entry points are on the bottom. You have knockouts for AC, DC, and communications, and these are 1 1/8 inch in diameter. On the AC side, you will need to install overcurrent protection device based on the size of the inverter. This breaker is not included. The table on the screen is also included in the manual, but remember that the breaker is sized based on the conductor size. The wiring terminal block will accept from a number 8 to a 6 gauge. Not visible on this picture, remember to install the Wi-Fi antenna and the 4G antenna, which is on the right side of the inverter or AC side of the inverter. Since we are talking about the AC side, it is worth mentioning that this inverter was designed to connect to 120 to 40 grid with neutral. Each phases are 180 degrees. The UL versions can adjust voltages and frequency if needed. Please refer to the installation manual for more information. As I mentioned on the earlier slide, the rapid shutdown transmitter is built in from the factory. We offer options from Tigo, APS, and will soon launch our own GoodWe transmitter. For all of these, you have to specify which you prefer with your distributor. Note that the PV rapid shutdown system must be sourced separately. Only the transmitter is installed inside the wiring compartment. For the rapid shutdown, if you need to install an external push button or e-stop, the red arrow on this photo points out to where the terminals you need to install the e-stop. If you don't need to use a e-stop or external push button for the rapid shutdown, make sure that you reinstall the jumper that you see that the red arrow is pointing out. This jumper must be installed if you're not going to use an e-stop or external push button for the rapid shutdown. If you are installing this inverter on a site that doesn't require rapid shutdown, you will need to disable the transmitter. In this case, all you need to do is disconnect the 12-volt power supply to the transmitter, and that will disable it. Once you have completed the wiring to the inverter, the next step is to start the commissioning. Note that the inverter only has LEDs indicators. All configuration and monitoring will be done via the apps. In case you have questions on the LEDs, the table that I'm showing on the screen is directly from the manual. Lastly, I want to touch on the external meters. Remember that these meters are not included for MSUS. The GMK 120 external meter is optional on these models, and it can help by providing additional information to the system owner, such as load monitoring. The GMK 120 is revenue grade, and you can locate the certificate for ANSI standards on our website. The meter is installed outside the inverter, but it is indoor rated, so you have to make sure you protect the meter. The CTs should be installed on the main service panel before the loads. Once the meter and CTs are installed, you will need to enable it using the SolarGo app. Note that if the CTs do not reach the main panel, there are a couple of ways to extend them. Please contact our after-sales support for more information on how to extend the CTs. In some places, solar power export is regulated and not allowed. For example, if you have a small main but cannot do an upgrade, you can limit the export power to the inverter. In other cases where you must ensure full self-consumption of the solar, you can program the system to do zero export or power limiting using these meters. In the next section, we're going to talk about the MSUS, commissioning and communication and monitoring. During the commissioning, you will connect to the inverter Wi-Fi or Bluetooth with the SolarGo app. But for permanent monitoring, you will need to connect the inverter to the customer's internet. For this, you will need to evaluate the type of internet connection, wireless or wire. Based on the installation location of the inverter and the homeowner's router, note the distance between the inverter and the home router. You can also use internet extenders if the home internet does not reach the inverter. If after evaluating you determine that the wireless will not be a stable solution for this installation, you can use the LAN adapter. Don't forget to install the Wi-Fi antenna included in the box. There are two mobile apps. One is SolarGo, and this one will help you through the commissioning process while you are in front of the inverter. The other one is SEMS app, which is for this series inverter, only allows monitoring. If you haven't done it already, go ahead and install SolarGo app before starting. Make sure the DC switch is on, and note the LEDs. You should have the power LED on. On the far right, you should have a fault LED. This is because the grid has not yet been connected. That's okay. You just want the DC on. The Wi-Fi LED should be blinking, which indicates that the inverter is generating the near-range Wi-Fi, but you can also commission using Bluetooth. Now open the SolarGo app. It will first search for the near device. This could take a few seconds. Then the inverter should appear with both options, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Select the one you prefer. Click Installer and enter the password 1234. Log in. On the bottom right, click on Settings and then select Basic Settings. For the MSUS version, the most common setting is the safety code. Safety code is the grid code or country code. The inverter is set from the factory to use US 240 volts AC default. If you need to change it, please click on the safety code applicable to your region. You will be prompted to enter the installer password, which is GoodWe2010. If you are unsure of the grid code in your area, for example, if you are in California, the most likely grid code that you need is USCA 240 volts AC. However, if you're not in California, but you don't know which grid code to select or safety code, please contact your utility company and they should be able to tell you which is the best grid code. Either the 240 default will work. Also, IEEE 1547 is very common in the US. But I definitely recommend that you contact your utility company to ensure you have the right code. Now that's it for commissioning of the MSUS. If you have the external meter and you want to enable that feature for either load monitoring or for zero export, you will need to enable it once the meter is installed. Lastly, you need to connect the inverter to the home internet. The reason for leaving this to the last step of the inverter is because the inverter will automatically look for a firmware update available as soon as it's connected to the internet. Ideally, you have completed all of the other steps of commissioning and you are not required to wait for the firmware update. So from the basic settings, you click on the router connection and select the owner's internet, and you also will need to have the password for the home's internet connection. Now let's talk about SEMS. So SEMS is our monitoring app. This is available in your mobile device, but also available on the browser. It's going to be the monitoring the homeowner will use to monitor their inverter. If you are registered as a single user, in case of the owner of this inverter, you will only be able to monitor the single inverter. However, you might want to see all of your GoodWe installation in a single dashboard. So as an installer, you have the capability of creating an account where you see your full portfolio of GoodWe installation. After completing this training, you can request the organization account code. I will put all of the information in the description below the video. We also have videos on how to use SEMS Cloud, and I will include those links as well. Thank you for taking the time, and please contact us if you have any questions. If you have any technical questions or clarifications about this training, feel free to email me at gwus.qsp@goodwe.com. Also, you can receive a certificate of completion of this training if you send me all your information, contact information, company name, address, phone number to the same email. I will make sure to have the certificate of completion emailed to you. If you're interested in getting a SEMS organization code so you can have all of your portfolio of GoodWe inverters in one single dashboard, you can also send me that information at the same address. The only difference here is that I do need to understand who will be the admin. I need you to let me know who the admin for this site is going to be. So a single person will be the admin, and send me that email to the same address, and we'll come back to you with the organization code. If you have any questions for sales, I have the email on the screen for contacting sales, and if you have any after-sales support, the phone number and email address. Thank you again.